Hello everybody, it's DuckFeren07. We are playing Zoo Evolution again today. Okay, so for those who don't know, this list is created around this card Eldritch Evolution. And this card says that you search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Okay, so we have a very good creature um, to do this plan with it, and it is Sino Draco. Sino Draco is 12 mana, and if you read the text on Eldritch Evolution, basically when you sack a Sino Draco, on Eldritch you can find with it any card in the deck, or any card with the mana value 14 or lower. That is everything. Okay, so one very strong target for Eldritch Evolution, of course, is Atraxa. This is a 7 mana creature that has flying, vigilance, detached, lifelink, obvious, 7/7, a pretty strong creature. When enters the battlefield, it has pretty good ability. Usually in this deck draws you 4 cards. That is Eldritch Evolution, mostly Leyline Binding, Land, and Creature. So uh, after you can do this as soon as turn 3 with Scion, but it's not just that you can do this same stuff with Solitude and Fury. So Solitude and Furies are 5 mana, and Eldritch Evolution gets you the Atraxa too, so it has good interaction there too. So it's not just depending on those Sans Dracos. And also, this is the deck that is very creatures based, as you can see, and we are playing 4 of these tutors that put creatures immediately into play. That's why we have very fun and good and strong and uh, infinite combo in this deck, and playing just one of Falconrat Aristocrat to fit this infinite combo in this deck, which combos off with the Renegade Relier and the Saphir's Daughter in the way that this creature gets infinite counters when you sacrifice a creature that's a human, and Renegade Relier is a human, and Safi and Relier present infinite loop when you can sack those two on Falconrat Aristocrat, and they just come back from the graveyard, and one brings back another, and it's an infinite loop. You put infinite counters on Falconrat Aristocrat and attack with Flying Haster, Infinite, which also has Indestructible. Of course, sometimes your opponent will have flying blockers, but you can just do it's not very often they have it, and you can try to do the same thing next turn. You will still have infinite flyer attacker that can get indestructible when trigger the ability, so a very strong threat. Definitely. Okay, so that is it. That is the infinite combo, but deck doesn't depend on it, and often it can easily assemble it, but it's not dependent on that combo. It's just a one-off card that can be tutored and on some occasions, and just shorten the game and win like that. But you can also there are also other very good tutor targets like Omnat, Locus of the Creation. This card is a very good tutor target against very aggressive decks, just gaining you insane amount of life with fetches. We have Eleshnor, Mother of Machines. This is the card that wins you the game against opponent playing elementals. We have Leyland Binding, the premium removal in the format. One of the premium removals in the format for 1 white mana. This removes everything. Of course, there is the Ragavan. Saphir's Daughter. It's not there just for the Renegade Relier combo. It also can be sacked before using the Eldritch Evolution or your Cyrano Draco, Fury, Solitude, whatever, before sacking it to Eldritch Evolution, so you don't lose that kind of important creature on that ability, which can be devastating if someone spell pierces your Eldritch Evolution. You lose both Scion and Eldritch Evolution. This way, you just put your stuff into the graveyard where you really want it, and the stuff in the graveyard is cool because it's always there to bring it back with Renegade Relier, then combo off if you draw the Eldritch Evolution. So it's fine having stuff in graveyard, you don't mind that. So there is that, and of course there is this is the main deck, 5 color deck, playing best one of the best cards in. Domain decks, Territorial Cowl. This card is great. It's very aggressive. 2 mana, 5/5, which loots your card. It brings you some card selection and brings you this very aggressive beat down plan. Using Ragavan turn 1, Kavu on turn 2, or Scion on turn 2, followed with the Renegade Relier on turn 3 to bring back Kavu or Ragavan if they died. And all of this combined with uh, this one of tutor targets that can be really strong in different matchups, and the Saphir's daughter that protects your other creatures, and but also Safi is there to scam your elementals into play early. So Safi has the ability to sacrifice itself and return creature from the graveyard the next time it will be put there. So you just evoke your elemental and sacrifice Safi, and you get the double ability, double trigger from the Fury and Solitude, and win the game like that. So there is also this deck is very synergistic and doing a lot of powerful strategies, lot of various ways to win the game, and we also have access to very good sideboard um, using all the 5 colors. We have Hiritsugu, which is very good hate against Hammer Time, Affinity, Hardened Scales, decks like that. We have Meddling Mage, also good against Rhinos, of course. We have Meddling Mage there to protect ourselves from combo decks. Also, there is 2 Fluster Storms that can help there against Cascade, against creativity and stuff like that. Also, Orvar as additional creativity hate. 3 Force of Figures as the ultimate artifact enchantment hate in these colors, and only 2 Endurances as our graveyard hate. So that is it. 22 lands. 22 lands made of to kind of try to make this optimal mana base for this build, and I have just I played this list before on my channel. I have, I think, 2 or 3 videos of it, and I used to play Renan 6, uh, 3 Renan 6 in that list, and 1 Melira, 1 Extraction Specialist. But streamer Jan Dingo used this list and to finish with a 3-1 in preliminary, and he played Ragavans instead of Rans, so I decided for this video to try Ragavans too, and I finished 4-1, was very close to trophy, and I lost to Yagmot player. I had a winning line, but thought a lot about it and made the wrong decision in the end and missed that line. So ended up losing that one game. But we'll now go through the league I played and watch all of the games. So let's go. So here we are. So, let's start with the game match one. Okay, in the match one, kept a decent hand, 3-lander, uh, Territorial Cavo, Leyline Binding, so pretty good there. My opponent started with a Breeding Pool, I went for the Triumph on turn 1, of course played my Cavo on turn 2, saved Fetch for turn 3 to be able to use the Relier ability if necessary. My opponent just cycled few creatures, so it was Living End. They went for the Grief, exiled the Eldritch Evolution, and I just didn't have too many options. I just went for the Relier, bring back land, then attack with Kavu, use the ability, exile the Grief from their graveyard, and that was it. So put my opponent on at 10, 8 life. They went for another cycle there, so put themselves in lethal range, and they also didn't find third land to cast their living end. So I got my fifth land attacked for lethal, but opponent had Brazen Borrower to save themselves from dying this turn. and I decided to go for Eldritch Find the Aristocrat here, so in case my opponent uses the living end, I have the sack ability to sack all of my creatures and put them into graveyard so I can return them back to the play. And my opponent didn't find the third land anyway, so they conceded. That was a game against game one against the living end. Pretty hard matchup on the play, but got a little bit lucky there. To win this one, I have a decent hate for this matchup in game two, but had to mulligan to 5 and didn't find any creatures. So Ragavan is great in this matchup, enables turn 2 to fairy. I just got 2 more lands from the top. I had a Flusterstorm and Teferi, which can be definitely good here. My opponent went for another cycle, just 2 creatures in the graveyard at this time, so I just went for another Triumph and didn't feel very good about passing another turn, so I just decided to go for the Teferi this turn. And if they had a link and it's just 2 creatures and I can bounce one, so it's pretty good. So Force of Negation was definitely best card they could have at this point, and so they just went for the Grief next turn. Uh, Discard my last card in hand and then use the living end when I concede, and I had another land, so it was pretty bad rolls from the top of my deck. I hold keep 5 cards and draw just lands, so for the quick loss there. But same as last game, this one was pretty unbeatable. For my opponent, I already got the Mage and Flusterstorm, which is very good. Also, I'm on the play, so I have a chance to gem Kavu on turn 2 and then play my hate cards on turn 3. So I went for the Kavu on turn 2, of course. Kavu can give me great card selection while I'm playing this hate cards and holding interaction. So I just went for it. Attack, Kavu attacks really good here. I also draw into Endurance, which was incredible draw and really unbeatable hand from my opponent. For my opponent, they went for the subtlety on the mage. I put it on top and pass the turn. I have everything I need to win this match. It's kind of really unbeatable. And my opponent goes Grieve here, sees my hand, and immediately concedes. So yeah, that was a really good hand. Okay, so that was game one against a living end opponent, and we can now go to the match two. Match two again had to mulligan here, keeping 2 Cowls, Safi, Solitude, lot of good cards here. So definitely starting with Cowl. My opponent was in this match was a mono black, playing mono black coffers. This is a deck that Domain Zoo decks don't really like playing against this because they play 8 of these lands that destroys our mana base and also shrinks our Kavu, and they play infinite removal. They have 4 fatal pushes, they have Blood Chief Thirst, all kind of stuff we really don't like. And so my opponent went for Profane Tutor there and just holded Demolition land from turn 3. I went to find a forest, make my Kavus 3-3, dash the Ragavan. I hope to find more lands with these cow abilities. So I just went to discard 2 of the cards. And in case my opponent goes for Damnation, I played my Sapphire's Daughter so I can save my territorial Kavu and then hope to find the land plus dash to lethal my opponent, but they didn't do it. They probably find, I think, single removal. I was in a pretty good position here. I went for the Ragavan dash. My opponent plays the fatal push and then plays the second fatal push. I didn't use my Safi because they had Relic of Progenitus, so my cow wouldn't come back and I would deal 2 less damage to the opponent, so it wasn't very good to sack it. And I just played my Sino Draco, put my Ragavan back in my hand, and that was the game. So that was it's not an easy matchup because of these lands they play and the number of removals. Also, they played the Damnation. But this deck attacks from a lot of different angles, and they have to be careful all the time. Kill a lot of threats really require killing on sight. So, but often you just can't kill everything. So I just went for turn 2 Meddling Mage. I named the Fatal Push. My opponent just played Night Whisper and Relic, which was fine. I use this opportunity to exile Relic before they can draw a card with it. They went for Karn, find Coating, and yeah, if they can get Coating online, it's pretty good. That's why I played Renegade earlier. Bring back my Ragavan. Unfortunately, they had Damnation that was pretty good, but at least they weren't able to play the Coating, so I was able to play the Fury, kill the Karn. But my opponent had the Invoke Despair, got their Relic back, killed my creature, killed my Fury, and drew another card. So, still, it was fine. I had Safi plus Scion. My opponent immediately Fatal pushed the Safi and had Invoke to kill my other Scion, plus Night Whisper to draw 2 more cards, so pretty good. They killed all my threats and that was it, so no more real chance for me to get back into this game, so I concede here and it was time to start game 3 of this match 2. So, uh, keeping this 4-lander, decent hand, Ragavan turn 1, some threat on turn 2, it was okay. I should have played the Overground Tomb here, I failed. So I didn't have a fetch next turn for Relier, but fortunately I drew it, so it wasn't really important. I got my Ragavan back. Pass the turn, my opponent went for the field, I find my forest. So it didn't do much damage there. And I got my combo. I sacrificed Safi on Relier, then sacrificed Relier. Safi brought back Relier, Relier bring back Safi, then I find my Aristocrat and put infinite counters on my Falconrat Aristocrat with flying and haste, and my opponent don't have a solution for this indestructible guy, so they concede, and that was the game. Okay, so that was game 3. Win against my mono black coffers opponent, where I uh, successfully comboed in the game 3 final match to win, which was pretty cool. So we can now start match 3. Okay, kept pretty good hands, 2 lands, Ragavan, Kafu, Safi, so able to scam the Solitude in if needed, but my opponent wasn't Tron, so it wasn't really useful. And Ragavan is one of the best plays against Tron, but this was Eldrazi Tron, not a mono green Tron. And so they had more options to deal with Ragavan. Ragavan is usually very good in this matchup. So I just played my Kavu. Kavu is also very good here. They just used their Eldrazi Temple. Um, Sorry, they played the expedition map, Basilisk Collar. Let me attack with the territorial Kavu. I play my Sino Draco, put a lot of pressure on the field. I have these Safi in hands, being able to scam the Solitude in. So that's exactly what I do. I drew into land. I wanted all my cards in hand. Didn't want to discard anything. So I just play Safi, played another Scion of Draco. And when they went for to make the construct token, I use my Safi. I use my Solitude, then sack Safi and Solitude, bring it back, kill both of their construct tokens. My opponent concedes. That was the game. Okay, quick game one against Eldrazi. In game 2, again playing second, again had a similar hand, not being able to play Ragavan on 1, but still had a pretty good hand here with Eldritch Evolutions, Reliers, Furies, so a lot of solutions for stuff they could play, their aggressive starts. Okay, they went for the Chalice, which wasn't really important for me because I only play Ragavan as a 1 mana spell. And I have Fury to which I can ditch Ragavan, so it just doesn't really matter. My opponent also forgot they played the Chalice, so they played their Expedition map into Chalice, and then dismembered my Scion, which was pretty good. It didn't have other good threats besides for the Relier. They went for the Reshaper. I just played my Ragavan, so they decide to block Relier anyway, get wastes from the top of the library. I had Clearway for Ragavan next turn, but my opponent had another Reshaper. Then I used a Solitude to exile this Meta Reshaper to not get them this ability dying trigger. I finally attacked with Ragavan, played 1/1 Ballista from the top of their deck, and had the Eldritch Evolutions in my hand. So I just find another land. My opponent plays Warping Veil in combat, kills the Ragavan, and I just deal 1 damage with this Ballista and decide to sacrifice it to Eldritch Evolution, find the Territorial Cavu. Cavu is very aggressive, deals 5 damage, and loots card away from my hand. Very usable creature. So opponent goes for the Reshaper. I play the Fury. Kill their third Reshaper, do the loot ability with Kavu, find the Solitude, but my opponent finds the Totnatsir, which they can play, then exile my Eldritch Evolution, which could get Atraxa next turn, so they really need to exile that. And I drew into this Falconrat Aristocrat, which is very good here. Flying, haste, aggressive, can get indestructible, really hard for my opponent's deck to deal with, and it was just a very good draw. At this point, my opponent was forced to trade with Fury there, so I got 2 little attackers for next turn, and that was the game. Okay, so we will now watch the win in the last round, and then go back to the defeat against Yagmoth. Okay, so I kept mediocre hand, not very strong, but it can be with maybe um, a few draws like this one. Got the Solitude so I can scam it. My opponent plays the Blood Moon so I get my Forest. Also got a Territorial Cavu to play on turn 2, which was pretty good. I had my basics, so I was able to play around turn 2 Moon very efficiently. And I got 3 damage with Cavu, play the Scion, exile, scam the Solitude in, kill their Sanctum Weaver, and got another 3/2 attacker there. My opponent just 2 cards in hand at this point, playing Enchantress. So they go for the Sterling Grow, and so I'm just free to attack here. For 6 damage, play another threat. So I just played another Territorial Cavu, and my opponent concedes, but it was very close to lethal next turn, and they didn't really have options, so that was the game. And let's see the match 2. Okay, so in match 2, uh, playing second, but have a decent hand. Nothing special, no heat, no force of vigor, no leyline binding. But I did find force. When you have territorial Kavu in hand and other playable spells, so with Safi and Relier, I'm really close to comboing off. I also have the Fairy. I decide to go for the Sterling Row, end of turn. Uh, Kill the Sterling Row, bounce their cities. They replay the cities, draw some cards from it. But that was that. I had my Leyland binding to get rid of the cities next turn. So just played my binding, removed cities, play another territorial Kavu to just try to be as aggressive as possible. They went Weaver on Thin Ice. I plus my Teferi again, attack with Kavu, get the ability going, and didn't get the lands to double spell here, but I played my Scion, which means they have to deal with that for the next turn, or they're going to lose this. And my opponent plays few abundant growths, plays the solitary confinement, but with just one card in hand, there are very low chance of them succeeding to do anything, so they just concede, and that was the game. Okay, so that was a win in the last round, and we will now watch the final match against a Yagmoth player. I had the winning line, I will tell you what it was. It was really close to trophy, but unfortunately decided against playing. Yeah, in game 1 I decided to keep Elish instead of Omnat. Omnat would be better, but I didn't know what I was playing against, and a lot of decks right now can be really well hated with Elish, so that was the reason why I kept the Elish. I also had the Relier to ramp into Elish, but unfortunately you will see I got to 4 mana and never got to 5 mana. Definitely, I think if I got my if I had my Brennan 6 instead of Ragavan, which is terrible in this matchup, I would probably be able to win this. I'm not sure about Ragavan. Still, obviously, Ragavan is very good, but so was the Brennan 6. Both of these cards are very good. I decided to go for the Solitude here, exile the Geist, because I was pretty sure they have either Chord of Calling or the Eldritch Evolution. So I exiled the Geist in case they go for Yagmoth. They can go for the Eldritch, they can't go for the Chord this turn, but they just got the Yagmoth from, sorry, they got the Eldritch. My bad. And it was a good decision for me to just kill that what is it called, the Geist, and I got my 4th mana here to play my Falkenrath Aristocrat, which was a very good play at this point, just being able to kill the Grist and attack with the Relier my opponent, and my opponent had 0 cards in hand, so pretty good position. I have Falkenrath Aristocrat, I have Relier, killing a Grist, attacking my opponent, which means I only need Miss Safi to combo kill my opponent. If I got this on Omnat, if I put this Olash back instead of Omnat, I would maybe have a better chance of finding something. But Elish was useless because I just wasn't able to play it, and my opponent immediately top decked, of course, Yagmoth from the top of their deck, and then used it to kill my creatures and stabilize themselves on 8 life. So it was they just had to not draw Yagmoth for one more turn, and I think this will be over. Okay, I decided to block with Relier here. My opponent got good top deck at the right time, and that was it. That was the game here. I played for one more turn. I decided to use my Relier to ramp, try to put this LS on the field. So I attacked with my Ragavan to trigger Revolt. I played my Relier, but my opponent had also Endurance here, and they had too much stuff going on, and it was just they're just very close to kill. So I decided to concede and to go to the game 2. Okay, so in the game 2, I keep mediocre hand again. I only left one Ragavan in my deck, just because sometimes Ragavan can be good against Yaug if they don't have the Young Wolf. So I kept the one in, especially it can be good with Sino Draco. So this is only in Zoo. I don't board out all of my Ragavans in this matchup. So I kept two of them in. My opponent plays the Birds of Paradise, and so their only option was to jump with birds or let me connect. They decided to jump with birds, which was very good for me. So I just played my fetch, passed the turn. I have multiple options next turn, going endurance or going for the Eldritch Evolution. After that, my opponent plays the Innkeeper, plays the Hierarch. I find my Zagotrium. Unfortunately, draw Atraxa. Never a good feeling to draw Atraxa in this deck means you can't really find it, but it's sometimes you just hard cast it, especially in cases where you can find uh, especially in the cases where you find your own nut. I exiled the Yagmoth from top of my opponent's deck, and I decided to kill their Hierarch, draw a card here, play their Yagmoth, sacrifice my Ragavan. Finding Yagmoth was good with the Eldritch Evolution in my hand, so I had a very good evolution target here. So I went to attack for 2 with my Yagmoth first. Put my opponent on turn 10, then sacrifice it on Eldritch Evolution, find Fury to kill my opponent's Yagmoth before they draw cards with it. So, yeah, so that was it. Played my land, played the Evolution, find Fury, kill Yagmoth. I had my Endurance for the next turn. And slowly getting closer to casting this Atraxa. A pretty good position for me. Fury on the field. My opponent uh, just grist and 2 cards in hand. I drew my Renegade Relier, which means I can wrap myself into playing Endurance, both Endurance and Relier this turn, and then playing Atraxa next turn. I went to attack Grist. My opponent, of course, jumps with Insects. I played my Relier, get my fetch back, and pass the turn. So I have 6 lands at the moment, and I'm able to hardcast the Atraxa next turn. So it's not very difficult with Renegade Reliers and Omnat in your deck. It happens quite a lot. My opponent plays the Blood Artist, so have to be careful about that. I decided to fetch for 3 and play Endurance anyway to just attack either this Grist or my opponent's life total. Maybe I should have played the Atraxa first and then attack. Just try to see if I'll get Fury or Solitude. But I decided to go. Face with everything. My opponent jumps the Fury, and I put them on 7 life. I hard cast my Atraxa. Find the 4 cards here: Eldritch Evolution, Temple Garden, Scion, and Solitude, and pass the turn with lethal damage on the field for the next turn, unless my opponent does something really strong or kills me with Yagmoth, but they didn't have any undying creatures at the moment, so I was pretty comfortable here, and my opponent conceded. That was game 2, and we were now able to go to the game 3, and I was playing second here, which means definitely a bit harder for me. On the draw, I decided to get rid of my Ragavan, and I put Elash was also not very good. I left one meddling mage in as a tutor target, and I put in two fluster storms to be able to deal with Eldritch. It's very good against Eldritch Evolution, Sword of Coupling. So I had a hand with two Furies, which was pretty good. I really want those elementals when playing this matchup, and I had a to turn to Sign Draco to start attacking. Okay, my opponent attacks with Geist, stays back with Young Wolf in case I have Ragavan. So I just go for my Sacred Foundry here, play my Sino Draco, I have the option. Next turn, going for Atraxa in if my opponent doesn't kill my Scion. They don't really have a lot of answers to Scion except for the Grist, and I think one of Boseiju, they had it. So I got my land, and I untapped, draw a card here, and this was really important turn, and I should have played better on this turn. I played my Renegade Relier, leaving my blue mana open here, and this was opportunity for me to prevent them from drawing multiple cards with their Yagmoth. I should have played one of my Furies, uh, deal damage here. 1 damage to Wolf, 1 damage to Geist, 1 to Havermite, then Wolf and Geist would come back, both with counters, which means if when opponent plays their Yagmoth, they are not able to draw infinite cards here, which would make life much easier for me. But it wasn't over anyway. I hoped for my opponent playing either Eldritch or Chord, and hoping to use my Flusterstorm. That didn't happen, but I still had my opponent went for a few abilities to kill the Renegade Relier there, and I had two Furies, so it definitely still not over. It was a pretty decent hand. I had Fury with the potential of going for Eldritch Evolution into Atraxa on the next turn, so I was doing good still. My opponent drew a bunch of cards there, put themselves really low on life. As I said, if I just used my Fury last turn, they wouldn't be able to do this, and I would now untap, just play my Fury, and they would have like 2-3 cards in hand, which would be incredible. Their Yagmoth would be dead. I wouldn't have this Territorial Kavu and Fury in hand, but they wouldn't have 12, 13 cards in hand. So it was the line that would probably be a winning line that I missed, but I was able to put Fury here on the field, kill the Young Wolf, and this Geist. So my opponent got themselves to 5, and I had the Eldritch Evolution, but my opponent find the Grist to kill my They had the grist to kill my Fury, unfortunately, and didn't have too much choices here. I had some options. I could have obviously gone for Solitude and just exile one of these, block the other one, but it with 7 cards in my opponent hand, it just didn't feel as winning line. Also, the line I took didn't feel very good too, but it was just one last thing to try. And if I had another wild card in hand, maybe instead of this Flusterstorm, maybe I would be able to win it. I just went for the Aristocrat, attack for 4, put my opponent on 1 life, but just one Geist from my opponent side with haste means I'm dead, and of course, with so much cards in hand, they had it, and that was exactly lethal damage. So I missed that winning line in this match. I don't think my opponent would get out of that situation where I would just uh, kill their Yagmoth, and they wouldn't be able to draw a bunch of cards, and I still had some good stuff from the top of my deck, like Eldritch Evolutions, and yeah, it was a really shame to miss that. I thought about it for a few minutes and just made a bad decision. I definitely would have used the Fury there in a lot of cases. I don't know why I didn't do it then. But yeah, that was the mistake which cost me the trophy here. So last 3 times I played, each time ended up a 4-1. This trophy with this deck is still avoiding me, but deck feels very good. It has a lot of angles of attack uh, against various metagame decks, and it's good. It's playable against everything. It has tutors which can find you some solutions for almost any deck in the format, and in my opinion, it feels a very strong option to play at the moment, and really liking. The look of it so far, and that is it. That is the entire league for today's video. Hope you like the deck, hope you like the gameplay. As I said, Ragavan's very good, definitely. Oh, it's no wonder that Ragavan's very good. The people suggested me of playing Ragavan in this list before, and I definitely said I'll try it. I had my reason why I was playing Ren because play a lot of these big mana cards in my deck like Fury, Solitude, Elesh, Atraxa, Omnat, Aristocrat, also Relier and Eldritch Evolution, and just having Vren and 6 to smoothen those land draws, also gaining access to Boseiju as a Blood Moon solution was really tempting and still is. Um, but Ragavan, of course, was just Ragavan, and it's often very good, especially against these cascade decks. And a lot of decks really have to answer it, so all your other threats become better too. Elesh Norn was useless, kind of useless again, same as the last time I played it. I will just probably switch this to the sideboard and maybe play one of Vren or maybe 2 of them. Still not sure about it, but I'll have to think about it some more until next video of this deck. Okay, so that is it for this time. My thoughts of this list is I really like the Ragavan too. The Ragavan have this version. You can see previous versions of this deck on my channel. I didn't play Ragavan before in the first version when I first brought the deck. I played Vren and 6 there, but the Young Dingo use my list with the Ragavans in there to finish 8 in the preliminary. I kind of liked the looks of that and decided to try a Ragavan myself too. Ragavan was great, as I said, but still missing the Rents. I think 1, 2, or Rents would be also good, but all other cards except Elish Norn worked out very well too. So I still have to think some more about the cuts, and that is it for this time. If you want like the video, want to help the channel, click like, click subscribe, and that's it for today. Goodbye.